Nerdish, nerdy, nerd news.
Hi, and welcome to Nerdish, Nerdy, Nerd News. Come along and ride with us as we explore, discuss, and nerd-splain some of the most interesting topics of today.
Hey, I'm Ferg. I spent my youth playing sports, then I moved into IT, so I've been around nerds quite a bit. I hope to have some laughs and learn some things along the way.
Hey, I'm Tim. Hung around with nerds a lot growing up, hoping that it would rub off. I think it kind of did, because I'm kind of nerdish. And as always, my co-hosts.
Hey, thanks Tim. I'm Christian. I've been playing and writing, creating games and Dungeons & Dragons since high school. My idea of a relaxing weekend is playing vids with my buds online. I also used to do complex math troubles with my dad for fun. I am very nerdy. And with us, to help us understand the world a little better...
Hi, I'm Jess. I've been programming and using computers since the early 80s. I'm a voracious reader, consistently going through about 500,000 or more words a month. I've got some biochemistry in my background, and I've been using technology for as long as I can remember. I am the nerd.
Well, hello, fellas. Glad to have you all back here in the dingy basement. How's life been for everyone?
Pretty good, Christian. How are you?
Good. Just had a birthday last night with 8 10-year-olds, and we went to the Marvels. That was a pretty awesome movie. They had the Goose, the cat, the interdimensional space cat with tentacles in its mouth. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It ate a lot of people.
I stayed here and took care of the dogs, and when they came in, it was just like the old Looney Tunes where Taz the devil going, winding around and just spinning through. That's what it was like when they got home. The kids through the living room, around the corner, and then down the stairs, and all I could hear downstairs was thumping, screaming, laughing, and yelling.
Oh, the sounds of childhood.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was pretty chaotic when they got back.
And as I was leaving, Christian was giving me the eye, like, save me, and I was like, bye.
What's that? You need help? You need help eating your pork chops at home? I'll be right there, Jess. Sorry, hon. Jess has got extra meat. I need to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, It was good. It was a good time. The kids had fun. We came back with the same 8 that we took, so that's sometimes half the battle, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a win.
Yeah. No tears. Yeah. Hello, Heather.
How are you guys today?
Good. So
Hi, Heather.
This is Fergal here. This is our other co-host. And
hi, how's it
this
going?
is Jess and me, Christian.
She's seen me. She hasn't seen
She
you.
hasn't. I don't think. Yeah, you haven't.
I was
seen
going to say, I haven't seen you because you couldn't get your video working that day.
No, I could not. So yeah, we're just gonna do the podcast and chat about what you've been up to and where you've been and what your ag tech experiences and.
You betcha.
So this is Nerdish Nerdy Nerd News, and we have Heather Clair from Sasktel. She is... Well, you can explain what your position is, Heather, if you've figured it out a little better since the last time we talked.
Well, don't give me too much credit. So I am a marketing manager at Sasktel. My specific area is smart ag. So I work with the business development team, or I work on the business development team and alongside the innovation team to help understand the issues that are coming up for our rural agriculture clients, and as well as working with the ag tech community, whether within the province, out of the province, coming to the province, and help them figure out whether it's connectivity needs or infrastructure needs, anything in that realm. When you throw in my background, most of them like sitting down and talking just because I have a somewhat interesting perspective on ag tech that not a lot of people seem to have right now, just due to the newness of the industry.
Yeah, there's a tech gap there where, the new toys coming out for farmers are pretty high tech. I mean, we've seen some of the self-driving tractors and things like that it's just mind-boggling how that hasn't come into play so much in the regular industry. Like, self-driving cars seems really new. Well, self-driving tractors have been around for quite a few years.
Oh, for sure. But if you think about some of the automations in the car industry itself, like how many of those manufacturing plants are so automated? Same thing when you think of like breweries, distilleries, the processes are automated. It's just because our processes are so huge and very visible because it's land, you don't necessarily think about it in the same vein. So
most
the ag industry is just
no, as I was gonna say, most people, when they think agricultural technology, they think exactly what Christian was just talking about. It's a self-driving tractor or something like that. They don't realize there's a lot more to the scope than that.
Yeah. Well, and it's I saw a presentation by Ben Voss about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. Ben is fairly high up. He was in Raven Industries, and through the different buyouts, he's with Case New Holland. Yeah, he's with the parent company now, I think, if I remember right. So CNH. And he had a newspaper clipping from 1971 that was talking about what tractors of the future were going to look like.
Oh, man.
And it was absolutely amazing how close they actually got it. Like, it's going to have this amazing captain's chair, kind of like Star Trek, and it's going to be so comfortable. And there's going to be, like, they missed the mark on carpet because, like, let's be honest, that's not practical. But it was literally like this very interesting, probably op-ed piece from 1971. And they probably got 8 out of 10 points. Pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
took a little longer than they expected.
I've got a lot of old issues of Popular Science from like the 80s and 90s, and it's fun going back and looking at some of those as to what they thought the future was going to be like, and what it actually ended up hitting on. I mean, even Popular Science, like that one was, I don't know, 3 out of 10 maybe, so for someone to be able to guess that much of what your ag industry is.
So Fergal's from Ireland, and he grew up there.
I did.
Yeah.
And
so
which county?
Limerick City.
Nice. I have been there. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Fergal used to work for the city council too, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
My family is Irish on both sides. Like, we can trace ourselves back to Wicklow and Mayo.
Oh, fantastic. 2 beautiful spots. Really beautiful spots, Wicklow and Mayo.
Fergal's gotten drunk in both.
I have. Yes, I definitely have.
On my trip, my absolute favorite place was Kathleen's Irish Pub, just outside of... It was somewhere in the Limerick area. We were at the Cliffs of Moher earlier in the day.
The Cliffs of Moher, yeah.
There was a fantastically restored folk village outside of the castle, and I'm going to be very upset. Bunratty, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Yeah, it's a good spot. Yeah, they have the medieval feast there, and yeah, that's a good spot. Yeah, nice pub, nice Guinness.
Yes.
So the reason I brought that up is because the agricultural environment there is different than we have in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, it'd be very different. The vastness of Saskatchewan in everything we have here in comparison to Ireland, and because of the history of Ireland, it's very patchwork, very small farms, the majority of them, right? So there wouldn't be, like, I heard a great story from a farmer over here, and he was asked, how much land do you own? He said, I own 2 seas. And it was basically, as far as you can see now, walk to there, and it's as far as you can see again, and that's how much I own. So, which would be quite different to Ireland, where we measure them in acres,
Right. So,
but it is a very important industry in Ireland as well. Like, it's a super important industry, the same way as it is here in Saskatchewan.
Well, I would say that specific farmer has his own measurements. 'Cause I've never heard a unit of measurement being 2 C's. That one's new. We too use acres. No, and I can totally appreciate how different it is here versus there, because that was something that we were just blown away with. Was like, here's a stone fence and there's a stone fence, and this field is only that. Oh, okay, that's only that big, and you'd get up on like this going up a hill towards the mountains or something like that, and you look back and it was just patchwork quilt is what it looked like. Really cool. Whereas here, if you ever get the chance to go up on top of one of those giant inland terminals, those big concrete elevators, it looks a little different. You also get a little bit of vertigo.
Yeah.
But it's an absolutely beautiful experience if you can get up there in that late June time frame, and you can see all the blooming canola and the flowering flax and fields is green, and
Green and
I love it
purple
here.
and yellow and blue.
Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you come from that you've picked up this amazing appreciation for the land that we live in, Heather?
So my story is pretty typical, I think, when it comes to a Saskatchewan kid, but I grew up on a 2,800 acre grain farm.
That's a
the
couple
only
C's.
animal, not as many as you would think. 2,800 acres, like that was enough for my dad with my grandpa's help, and as my grandpa started getting older, it started to be my mom, and that was a very fun dynamic watching the two of them butt heads, because my mom is somewhat of a firecracker, and I vividly remember an argument that was basically like, she can't do it, she's a woman, and her reply was, well, he can't do it, he's old. It was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But I grew up second youngest of 5 kids. There are 4 girls and 1 boy in my family, and the boy's right in the middle. So we did not necessarily play into the typical 80s gender roles.
No.
It was us girls could do just about anything that he could. That being said, he did not cook as well as we did.
Well, and the farm
still-
farm work had to get done,
Yeah.
whether you were a boy or a girl. It was
Exactly. My oldest sister was an operator. She could run anything that Grandpa could. I changed my own oil in my 81 Monte Carlo the entire time. Like, I am somewhat knowledgeable. I have lost some of that because the electronics in the vehicles are a little bit too much for me now. But like, we grew up doing the same work. I can drive a 3-ton grain truck and run a 10-inch auger like it's nobody's business. That being said, equipment got too big for me and I got out of practice. So, but yeah, my oldest sister and my brother called dibs on the farm. They got there first. My second oldest sister tried for a few years. She and my brother had a partnership, and then my oldest sister and her husband had a partnership, and they were all trying to farm with mom and dad, and it went okay for a few years, but to be honest, 2001, 2002, and 2003 were really horrific droughts in Western Canada. Saskatchewan got real bad. In 2002, there was less rain in those years than there were during the Great Depression. Just to give you reference, like, it was bad. Yeah. And we got a little crop off in 2001. On that 2,800 acres, we only put the combine in 4 of those fields, so only 640 acres. You only had to combine any field that was rated at more than 4 bushels an acre. So if the crop insurance came out and they did their plant counts and they said, okay, this field has 4.5 bushels an acre, you need to combine this one. And so you're breaking even maybe because all you're doing is combining it to get seed so that you have something to grow next year.
Right.
So going through 3 years of that, 03 it got better. We did get some rain, but the grasshoppers were really settled in. So like the grasshoppers were eating the paint off of buildings. Like I vividly remember that. There just wasn't food, so they were eating anything.
Oh man.
It was gross. So you've got no crop, you've got no rain, but you've got this massive infestation of grasshoppers, so you have to spray them or they'll eat whatever is there. So it's just this double negative effect that's going on. So in 03, we got a little bit of rain, but we also got a ton of hail.
Mm-hmm.
So you had,
if you had anything out of the ground, it was toast.
Yeah. So it was like, if you could find an area where the hail hadn't hit, I remember it being 60 bushels an acre. I remember being in the combine with my dad and just being like, this is insane. Because like this little corner that the trees protected in this one spot on the field was just this beautiful crop. And like 20 feet to the left, it would go from 60 bushels to 20 bushels. And then right around the trees itself, there was nothing. It was eaten to the ground because grasshoppers got it. So 3 years really rough. And then 04 comes and it rains for 3 days and the grasshoppers die. Because if you get grasshoppers wet for 3 days, this like mold will set in on them and they'll die. And it's the most effective way to kill them. But try and put in a request for 3 days of rain with God, and it's really difficult.
Well, see, that's where the nerds come in. You got to ask the nerds for the rain.
Well, anytime you guys want to start praying, that'd be super.
If they'll let us start cloud seeding, we might be able to.
That brings its own problem.
Yeah, it does. Hey, you didn't ask about the problems. You asked for rain.
That's fair.
I didn't tell you what it was going to be.
Yeah.
The culmination of the story is it actually rained in 04, but then it froze on August 15th or something.
I remember that year. Yeah.
And it broke the hearts of Western Canadian farmers because we actually had a crop.
Yeah.
And it was worth nothing. And I mean nothing. Wow. $2 a bushel if you were lucky.
Basically feed. Yeah.
Everything was feed.
Yeah.
But the problem with when everything is feed, then there becomes like grades of feed.
Right.
You know, like this stuff is less crappy than that stuff. You know, like it's splitting hairs to get literal pennies.
Mm-hmm.
And like the early 2000s was very, very hard on farmers. So I come out of university in 04 and I look around and I'm like, there's no chance that I'm getting back on the farm. I'd gone to university in I started in the fall of 2000. So my whole university career was like this horrible weather pattern for the farms. And I had to listen to all of my business friends tell me how farmers were whining and complaining. And it was very interesting having arguments with them because it's like, okay, but like you do realize that the farmers are the ones that buy the shoes from your dad, right?
Yeah.
And if they don't have money, they don't buy new shoes. So by third year, there was a few people that I'd had arguments with in first year that all of a sudden were complaining because, you know, oh, my dad's store isn't doing really well. And I was like, really? Is nobody buying their shoes? Like, I play a long game when it comes to arguments.
It just goes down the line. You know, the farmers don't do very well, so the costs of food goes up. The food costs go up. The transport costs go up because everyone has to make enough money to feed themselves. And it just gets pushed down the line. While the farmers still get nothing, you used to have at the end of the line, you have the grocery stores, which is where we're sort of at again now, that are raking it in. And everyone's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I can't feed myself. The farmers can't even run their farm. And yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's like it is interesting when you start looking at the economics of farming because they get paid, the farmer still gets paid the same 10 cents, or I think it's 10 cents. For a loaf of bread that they got paid back in the 40s, but the loaf of bread has gone up exponentially.
Yeah. Right.
But they're still only getting 10 cents a loaf.
Yeah.
it's not the farmers that are making out here.
No,
like
no.
No,
it is the value chain that keeps
Yeah.
scratching our heads going, where's the value in this chain?
Well, I've got a good friend who owns cattle, and he doesn't have a lot. He's got about 40 or 50 or something like that. So it's a very small herd, and he is like skin of his teeth every year. He's got to buy hay again this year because his hay field didn't get enough water, and he was like, I couldn't even swath it. So now he's going to spend $20,000 to feed his cattle over the winter, and that's after culling out the ones that he wasn't going to keep. So.
And I love it when there's these protesters that tell us that farmers don't care. It's like, really? Because the farmers aren't feeding themselves, but they are feeding their cows.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me farmers don't care. They're the ones that care the most.
Yeah. So just this fall, actually, the price of cattle in the auctions went up quite significantly. I was very lucky. I had bought my cow that I had slaughtered for beef just before it went up, and I think I paid $1. We paid, what was it, $1.35 a pound
Something
for
like
a
that,
heifer, and they're now $4 a pound. So yeah,
we split a cow between the two of us.
yeah. So it is very nice to see. Like he was so very happy. He's like, okay, I can afford the feed, and I can catch up on bills that I had to basically let sit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what did you go to school for? No, it's okay. So what did you go to? No, we all have, and we know you're a bit of a nerd like us, but you're an ag nerd, and that's what did you go to school for?
So the surprising part is I have a business degree, major in marketing, and for a few months in grade 12, I was like, I'm getting off this farm. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Blah blah blah. So I go to business. I go to University of Saskatchewan College of Commerce, and I'm just like, I am going to be a business person. And I think I got through 6 months there, and I was like, I like farmers. And so every one of my summer jobs, except there was 1 year. 1 year I worked in a restaurant, but I did summer sales for a company. I did summer research for a different seed company. And I came out of school in 2004, and I just wanted to work. And you could not get a job in Saskatchewan as a recent grad. You had to go to Alberta. And I fought so hard, like months. I applied at Sasktel, and I didn't get the job. I applied at the credit union in Kenora, Saskatchewan. I was going to move to Kenora all by myself, and got told that I was their second choice because the other person that applied had experience, even though I had the degree, and it was a really tough decision, but they decided to go with the experience.
Oh, come on. We all know experience means they were related to someone at the bank.
Yep. So that fall I went home and I was the hired hand, and that was the year it froze, and harvest started on September 6th, and it finished on November 30th. Oof. No, sorry, November 29th. It was a long slug. It was tough. And I was applying for jobs the whole time. I'd get in from the field at about midnight, and I'd look at the newspaper that somebody would have brought for me, and because that was the thing. And there was the online career section at the college, but like trying to find a job in those days was still literally like
slugging through the papers. Yeah,
slugging through the paper, and. There was one weekend it rained, and I happened to be in the city and opened it up, and I went, it's a job, and I applied for it, and I had no idea where Lavoie, Alberta was, and turns out it's about 20 minutes Saskatoon side of Vegreville.
Yeah.
So I applied. They met me in Lloydminster, and I did my interview on the 30th of November, because I remember they gave me 4 dates, and I told them, I'm driving the truck, and like harvest is happening, like any chance we can. I was like, I'm really interested, but can you give me some time? And they're like, absolutely. How about the 30th? I was like, okie dokie. And we finished at like 10:30 the night before. I was still completely exhausted. I drove out to Lloyd. I did my interview, and I somehow got the job. And then I had to ask where people lived when they worked there. Because I was like, do people live in Lavoie? Like, is that a thing? And this is me coming from a farm in a small town. And so, yeah, I went out to Lavoie, and I worked for AgPro. I had a territory. I worked with farmers, bought their grain, sold their seed chem fertilizer, walked their fields. I was young. I was a female. It was a very traditional area. I was the only female in the company in Alberta that wasn't a secretary.
Wow. That's impressive. Like that's putting.
Well, I was surprised. Like, this was 2005. Like, should have been better. It wasn't.
But I mean, even a decade before, a lot of. Yeah. I mean, I remember in the 90s with some of my friends, a lot of the girls didn't do the farm work. But like around here, they, if they had a couple brothers, their brothers did most of the hard work, and the sisters didn't. Like, and that was, probably same era of you, but you got lucky because I think you had the 4-and-1 instead of 2-and-2 or 3-and-2 like a lot of the other farmers.
And that's 100% it. I got raised to believe I could do anything the boys could do.
and your mom and grandpa told you that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I just think the problem was nobody told the boys that I could. So they needed an education, and eventually they got it if they hung around me long enough.
Yeah.
So,
but it was really like I learned a lot there because I had to.
Yeah.
And I differentiated myself because the Canadian Wheat Board was still in play, but nobody in the area knew how to use their marketing contracts. There were fixed price, basis price, and daily price contracts that were based off of the open market. And at the time, that was pretty revolutionary in the wheat world for Canada. So I figured out how to use these, and I made my farmers money, which meant that I could turn around and request extra money when I tried to sell them things.
Yeah. But I mean, this is you're talking about the nerd side of ag. Because you've got to know the numbers, you've got to know where to go for the contracts. That's not something the farmers just went to the wheat pool for 100 years. They drove to the elevator, and they sold their stuff, and away they went.
And the wheat pool had one way of selling it. Yeah. They put it into a pooling system, and you got paid over 18 months in different chunks.
Yeah.
And that's what this was this was a new opportunity that you could take marketing into your own hands.
And that's how that business has really changed. And just even since you started, probably how much it's changed.
Well, I think what was it? It was like 2010, somewhere in that range, that the wheat board was split. Like it's still around, but we went from a single desk to an open market system, and now you do everything. Like futures basis, off you go.
Yeah, and
you have to pay attention.
That's a leap for farmers who have never had to. Some of them never had to touch a computer.
No, and it's really interesting when people say, "Oh, like farming, it's pretty basic. It's farming," Well, it's really not. There's a whole lot that goes into it, and whether you're like, yes, you put a seed in the ground, you water it, and it grows. But if it doesn't have the right blend of fertilizer and nutrients to feed it, it grows, it wilts, it dies. It doesn't necessarily produce. So there's a whole lot of information.
There's a lot of science.
I've got 10 I've got 10 plants on my kitchen counter that I've tried to kill in various stages. And that's just too much water, not enough water. Too much sun, not enough sun. And I can't keep them alive, let alone an entire field.
This one likes rock music. Yeah. This one likes lullabies.
So how did you go from the marketing sales into the technology side then?
Okay, I better speed up because I feel like I'm dragging my feet here on you.
No, not at all.
So I worked at AgPro, and then I transitioned to Cargill, which same role, different company, different area. Did the farm sales for 5 years, and then I really needed a change. When you got a big heart and you come from the area, when people have a rough year, you have a rough year, and you start to care. And I needed to step away, or else I was going to not enjoy farm sales anymore. So I had the opportunity to go to Federated Co-op and jumped at it. I did logistics for them for 6 months. Just their chem warehouses held about $40 million at its peak, and it was like making sure that there was the right inventory there so that the co-ops could sell it, and ran all the logistics on that side. After that, I did a coordinator job for them where I did marketing analysis, or just market analysis. Took a look at what we had been selling over the last 5 years, took a look at growth and which products were tailing off. Worked with the co-ops on their margin, trying to figure out how to make them more, what can I say? Making them more competitive in their marketplace, so then they could grow market share and get more on back-end payments. Like it was a whole system. So I worked with them for, in that role, I did 2.5 years, and then I went business to business sales and covered 2 different territories for Federated. Same thing, selling retails, seed, chem, and inoculant, and helping them improve their sales. I got let go from Federated and took a second to try and figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and had
Princess Leia.
Everybody wants to be Princess Leia, and if you say that you don't, that's because you want to be General Organa. Okay.
I sense a bit of Star Wars nerdery in there.
There's a lot of Star Wars nerdery in here. There's also a fairly significant Marvel nerd in here. That being said, my younger sister wins the Harry Potter Nerd Award. Yeah. She literally wins it. Like she beat the creators of Pottermore at a trivia tournament.
She run around the fields with a broom playing Quidditch or what?
No, but that being said, when you do trivia with her, you have to specify if you're discussing movies or books, because she knows all of it.
And the differences between, no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. The nerd community is very fun. Sorry, just as an aside. Oh. She is involved in a Patreon for these creators out of Virginia, I think. But she has met people from all over the world. She's meeting up with people that she considers one of her best friends. She's never physically met her. She's in Sweden. Like, her friend is in Sweden. They're going to meet in Disney World.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, but, like, Denise got invited. Denise is my sister. She got invited to this woman's wedding and had to say no because we had a death in the family. And the funeral was the same weekend. But it's amazing what the internet has done for connecting people.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, even, again, to tie that back in, to connect farmers to other farmers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once they accept it and learn it, like it's a tool that, like a wrench to tighten a bolt, it's a tool they can use that.
Yeah.
Well, you take a look at social.
Better for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you take a look at social media. There are farmer groups. There are ag hashtags. Ag Twitter is incredibly active. I think it's one of the only things that's keeping X alive. That and some of the crazy stuff. But like, you can ask any question on the Saskatchewan Farmers Facebook group page, and you'll get 20 different answers. Some of them are real. Some of them are people trolling you. But hey, that's about the regular stats.
Yeah.
But it's really opened up the community for everyone. But I took a couple of months to figure out what I wanted to do in between Federated Co-op and the rest of it, and I stumbled across a job posting just on one of the boards and started reading about it. It was something I'd never heard of, and I was just scratching my head and kind of confused, and I kind of put it to the shelf. And about a week later, I had a recruiter call me and, hey, have you heard of this company? And I go, yeah, but I can't figure out what they're trying to do. Oh, well, gave me a little information, and they're like, your background, your area, they're really looking for a sales rep from the area that you used to be with Cargill. And I go, okay, heck, I'll talk to the guy. And I sat down with the sales manager for Farmer's Edge. And like I said, I'd looked at it, but I couldn't figure out what they were getting at. Like it's variable rate fertility. Okay, that part I get. It's using soil analytics, doing a lot of soil testing, and figuring out what areas of the field are similar, and then fertilizing those areas similarly, but differently from other areas in the field that have
so it's not just blanket
different nutrients.
Fertilize the entire.
Yeah, it's about putting the right amount of fertilizer in the right place for what you want to do.
Yeah, that would take a lot of soil testing.
Well,
A lot of analytics,
there's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple different ways you can do it, and we can get into it a little later. But this way that they were doing it was kind of different from everything I'd heard. They were using satellite imagery and running NDVI analysis, which is a biomass scan. So how much physical vegetation is in the field in those areas. And they were using biomass as an indicator of potential. So where the plants grow is where they can grow. And where they don't grow, you can kind of scale back the fertilizer, because like if you take a look at Google images of it at any point, and if you can get like a dirt picture of a field, you can see to this day where the topsoil has blown off the top of a hill and is actually in the valley just below it. Like you can still see impacts from the Great Depression and the 40s now. And because of that, you have these hilltops that don't grow much, and you have these valleys that grow way more, and you have these side hills that grow something in the middle. Now, the only thing is, if you get a lot of moisture, a lot of rain, those valleys will actually grow too much because they have so much nutrients, and they'll start to fall over or lodge. So you don't actually have to put as much nutrients in the valleys. Even though it's got the best soil, you can actually scale back and put that fertilizer on the side hill and make the side hill grow more. But there's no point in putting a ton of fertilizer on the hilltop because there's a maximum that it's capable of growing.
Yeah.
So, hey, they're doing variable rate fertility. They're using this NDVI methodology. That's kind of fascinating. But then they have this data platform, and the data side was totally new to me. And the Saskatchewan sales manager's name was Damon Johnson, and he totally sold me on it. I started nerding out like you would not believe. And the two of us had like this huge conversation about what analytics on a farm could do. Because John Deere, Case, like the implement dealers were using all of these analytics, but they were using it for like just-in-time inventory of service, of parts, making sure that they knew when to have things in place, but not having these huge inventories. Farmers weren't using analytics. If you could start understanding what went into the crop, you could start compiling it and then be able to draw conclusions based off of analytics. Nobody'd done that. You could also put out these Spectrum and Davis weather stations and put them all in, install them all so that they're at 6 feet tall, because then you get consistency of weather data, and you can see real-time weather data
Across
wherever
your
these
land.
stations are. Yeah.
Speaking of owning land, Fergal has to pop out on us here. He's got to go buy a
sorry.
house.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The lawyer wouldn't schedule around our podcast.
Jeez.
Lawyers, huh? It was fascinating listening to you, and I can't wait to listen to more. Thank you so much, Heather.
Well, I'm so sorry I didn't talk faster, so you could have
Not
heard
at
more
all,
of it.
no problem. I know I'll hear the rest of them when we broadcast it.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Take
thanks
care.
a lot.
All right. We'll
Bye.
talk to you later, Fergal.
We will continue our hangout in part 2 of our Ag Tech special with Heather Clair.
Thanks again for letting us into your ear holes with this nerdish, nerdy nerd news podcast. Check out our website at wildshot.ca.
You can find us on all the socials under Nerdish, Nerdy, Nerd News. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe and support us at patreon.com/nerdish to get more bonus content, show notes, and merch.
If you'd like to send us topics for future episodes or comment about our existing ones, please email us info@wildshot.ca. And remember, stay nerdy.
Nerdish, nerdy. Nerd News.